Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. For a filthy hobo, your scribblings are really quite prescient.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You wrote this piece. It's not just the pandemic. We're traumatized because of Trump and the MAGA movement. I was trying to, explain it in the opening segment that I know we keep saying we're numb. Like, here's another death threat against President Biden. All the rest of us would be in jail for, you know,
yeah,
judge's daughter, on and on. I keep saying it. I literally this weekend kept thinking, this feels like Hitler. This feels like this is how this must have happened. Like an entire
yeah,
country was traumatized and paralyzed and in fear and didn't know what to do or how to
yeah,
constrain someone. And, that's basically what you talked about in this piece, right?
yeah. I mean, and it's based on this Atlantic piece that said, that essentially said we're all suffering from an unacknowledged mass trauma because of the pandemic. And I'm like, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not just that,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's way worse and way deeper than and goes back a little more than just that.
Well, my best friend's a psychologist and she lives in Australia. We had yet another 3 hour phone call last night, but we've
Oh,
talked about this a lot, just how we've all personally and professionally in every way been affected by COVID. You're right. It's a PTSD, but you're right. The trauma is deeper. It is also from Trump. And I think a lot
yeah,
of psychologists will say that we have just been living in this chaos and division. And the fact, trying to envision this going on, I literally had a friend this weekend that said Trump's going to win. And I was I realized that I was so triggered, because
yeah.
it almost is beyond comprehension that we would have to continue to go through this, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean back in the day, my friends and I used to joke around and say, okay, if Pat Buchanan gets elected president, you
Right.
remember when he won one primary or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
We were like, if he's the president, we're going to Australia. Australia's it. We could be with your friend.
Yeah. Oh no, she keeps offering because so you come here. It
Yeah.
goes on. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
but
not gonna quit.
now I legitimately sit there and think, okay, if he's reelected, okay, here are my options for countries I can go to and get the hell away from here.
You said in my real job, I say all the time, we haven't dealt with the effects of the a-hole virus, not just with all the students who had formative experience C blocked by the lockdown, senior years of high school, first years of college, graduations. To have all that over Zoom is going to mess you up. And I know too many people who had to handle the worst of COVID firsthand and said goodbye to loved ones through windows, had empty funerals. My stepfather, who really was my dad and all but sperm, caught it and didn't treat it fast enough, and it cashed in his check. And you said, yeah, I'm traumatized too, but blaming COVID for the reaming of the American psyche lets too many mother effers off the hook.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing you say about mother effers, I mean, it's right in the title. They're going to F their mothers.
They're
I
gonna
mean,
F their
yeah,
F the mothers every time.
yeah. You say when we say that the pandemic has brain raped us, we're letting the real rapists off the hook. Expand on that, won't you, Rune?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, you see, there's an actual rapist involved here. It wasn't just a metaphor, and that because we are dealing with all of this, as you said, chaos under Trump, and the ongoing, just the insanity of the MAGA movement,
Yeah.
that we are constantly re-traumatized. If Trump's inaction or and lack of any kind of empathy during the COVID, during the peak of the early pandemic, that it affected us, then how is it not re-triggering and
Right.
re-traumatizing us every time we have to deal with him?
Yeah, yeah. Well, my it's just not to overshare,
Oh,
but that's what I always do.
yes.
No, but my best friend and I were talking about. She was just saying, as a psychologist, she's obviously dealt with it. I mean, Chris, you went dabbled, dealt with some very severe depression during
Yeah,
COVID. We
I
all
did.
did.
Yeah.
Um, and we in particular, my girlfriend and I just broke up, but we were talking about
Oh
how
no.
yeah, we were both traumatized. I think, we both were alone in our homes for like 2.5 years. So, when we
Yeah.
met each other, we're like another human that's I like, and and so it's I think we did a little bit of a square peg in a round hole thing, and love each other, and we're going to be friends. But I think
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
fit romantically. But I think again. we all were traumatized by, we just weren't normal coming out of COVID. I think we all and now I think just these last couple of weekends being alone all the time, I'm re-triggered about how much I was alone like all day, every day during COVID. And I think that's part of the Trump just keeps triggering and re-triggering us from all of that mass trauma, right?
And we were already traumatized by by his campaign, by
Yeah.
MAGA rallies, by what was happening there, and by the 3 years of his presidency leading up to the pandemic. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just one thing
Yeah.
after another. And I remember I tweeted when Trump got elected. I was like, oh my God, are we going to spend the next 4 years, getting our rage orders every morning by seeing what Trump has tweeted?
Yeah.
And we still do it now with Truth
Yeah.
Social. I mean,
Yeah.
we
It's
sit there
endless.
and we go, well, what is this a-hole talking about
Yeah.
today that's going to
It's
that's going to
amazing.
enrage?
It's
And then what
endless. And
stupid
yeah.
crap.
Yeah, and exhausting. It's just you're right. And you said there was a calculated effort to tear this country apart, to set the red and blue states, hell, the red and blue state regions within states against each other. Instead of unifying us, instead of demanding we all give an ass about each other, we had politicians earnestly saying the elderly should just allow themselves to die so we could get up and go shopping more. And you said the leaders of the MAGA movement wanted us at each other's throats. And this is like turned up to 11 now.
Yeah, yeah. This would have been like, if after 9/11, the Democrats had said, "No, screw you, George Bush. We're going to use this as an opportunity to just talk about your weakness and bring you down," which there was a legitimate reason to do that.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They were like, "Okay, the nation has suffered. Let's back off for a bit." And then, of course, it was the Republicans that ended up
Yeah.
taking 9/11 and using it as a weapon against
Well,
Democrats.
we've overused everything, the boiling frog, but you're right. As you write about it, it's just that when you've been through trauma for this long, as you say, we're traumatized because we've lived through nothing but trauma for years now with no break. And a click-driven media tries to act like this entirely abnormal time is totally normal when we know it isn't. It's and today this weekend it's just the latest. You're like, oh, okay, tweet another death threat against the sitting president of the United States. You're just right. There's no way to not be numb. And you say if we can't appreciate what President Biden has accomplished, maybe it's because we've seen how easily it can be taken away, whether it's civil rights or healthcare or infrastructure weeks that never arrive. The Trump years taught us how precarious it all is, and we haven't done anything to build a nation that isn't constantly dancing on the edge of disaster. As Bob Sesko always says, it's like you're leaning back in your chair. You're never sure if we're going to fall, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great metaphor for it. I mean, it's really this feeling that and that's why we keep clinging to these little threads of hope, like, oh, a judge issued a ruling that
Yeah.
maybe doesn't help Trump, or that affects the way the trial is going to go forward, and we're there like, yes, please. And we know that this is the progress here is going to be just so slug like slow
Yeah.
and that's another part of it, is we're sitting there going, okay. And I don't want to leave out, there's something I don't want to leave out either. It's that, and that's the people in the MAGA movement are also traumatized.
Yeah.
They themselves are giving into something. It's sort of like, I don't know, waking up after a party, and your ass kind of hurts, and you're wondering,
Ha!
how did that happen?
What'd I do?
Well,
But you said if the era of bad feelings, if some have called it, it's not just the pandemic, it's because of the Trump era, it's the MAGA era, it's the era of effing around and not finding out so far that for the F arounds, so to speak. And you said it's why we so desperately need Trump convicted and not just defeated at the polls. We need to say that someone is to, sorry. I should know to be ready with
You
my
should be,
box.
yeah.
Blame and punish them for it. Won't solve the trauma, but at least we know he won't be able to inflict more. Maybe then we can get back to restoring our feeling of safety in America. Yeah, it's like I quoted Glenn Kirshner. He said he's the most dangerous person out on bail in the United States. And it is.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of some danger on the loose now that we've had for how
Yeah.
long, right?
And then I didn't even get around to it. I realized this morning, I was like, I didn't even talk about, the feeling that you're going to be shot everywhere you go.
Yeah.
This other danger that is looming over us and causing us anxiety constantly.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's one that you can put aside, but we know it happens all the time. My sister just got a text last week. I was on the phone with her, and she said, "Oh, I just got a text that her daughter's school was issued a shelter in place order."
Yeah.
Wow.
And they later said there was some kind of, threat and nothing actually happened. But it's like, what the hell,
Yeah.
you know?
And after how many years that we still might die of COVID because it's
Yeah.
still here because of and the Trump COVIDiocy that this has caused. And that there's going to be
right.
another pandemic that's even worse. And of course, because, as you wrote, the way, they tore us apart. I mean, I had to remember some stuff. You said 4 years ago, I wrote about Trump celebrating what he saw as a low number of predicted deaths from COVID. Even today, when he finally admitted at least 100,000 people, maybe as many as 240,000, maybe fewer, maybe more, were going to die in this country, most in the next few weeks. He painted it as a victory that he was leading because it wasn't a million. That's where we were in 2020. I don't think that qualifies as better off in any way. And meanwhile, a million people dead later, here we are. You're right. Just, yeah.
He celebrated the ratings he was getting for the briefings.
Shove bleach up your ass, briefings, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, oh, it's bigger than anything, the briefings. And it's like, dude, you shouldn't have to be doing these briefings. We're doing these briefings because you effed it all up.
Yeah. Here's one of those slivers of hope that you spoke about. Is Fani Willis has all but taken over the case, personally focused intensely on legal strategy, getting her team and fighting for him for the trial. And you said they pissed her off. I hope she wrecks their lives. That's what I said. Oh, you came for the queen and you missed.
Yep.
Yeah. And they're still trying. And again, we're in another round of endless appeals.
Yeah.
That delays things. We have a justice system that is built in a way that cannot function to actually get to convicting Trump.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I keep saying. We just keep endlessly repeating, like, no one's above the law. We're a country of laws, not men. And just and keep feeling like we're being made fools of every day. Right.
Right. And no, and obviously we are a country of lawyers and men and lawyers, and because those who can afford all the lawyers can keep on delaying and delaying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's I think that's the realizing that, I guess, with money, you can endlessly appeal and appeal and appeal. Like I have to ask Tristan Snell again today. I mean, I think we have hit the end of the road in the hush money case, at least. From everything I'm reading with that, this is happening 15 days from now. Like, so there is an end of the road. But it feels like it's taking forever, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm at the I'll believe it when I see a jury seated and the trial starts.
Yeah. Yeah, it is just astounding. All right, I love you, you filthy hobo.
Oh, I will say one good thing happened 4 years ago today.
Yes.
And that is, I went to because I couldn't go to the actual adoption center. I met somebody in a parking lot that had a little dog
Aww.
and I adopted that little dog.
Aww.
And now a story about a dog.
And I love her because she hates everybody but me.
Aww. That a girl.
That's so
Unless you rub her
awesome.
belly. Which
And
it
I
really
adopted
goes for
two
most of
tiny
us.
hypoallergenic dogs because my girlfriend had asthma.
Yeah,
And now guess
yeah.
what I have? Two tiny hypoallergenic dogs that I love more than anything in the world.